Tonight on The Buzz, we talk with experts about the current state of media technology. We begin by asking Philip Hodgetts, the CEO of Lumberjack System, what new workflows, technology, or software has emerged that seems significant for the future of media. He highlights 4. Next, since stories will always be with us, we asked Michael Kammes, Director of Business Development for BeBop Technology, whether the determining factor to successful storytelling will be new technology, new distribution, or something else. He found a 4th option. Next, Dr. Erik Johnson is the Vice Dean for Academic Programs at the Viterbi School of Engineering at the University of Southern California. Tonight, he explains why teaching technology to students is important and what parts of technology are most important to teach. Next, Michael Horton co-founded the Los Angeles Creative Pro User Group almost 20 years ago. Tonight, he explains why user groups remain an important part of the creative process and how he programs his events for maximum impact. All this plus James DeRuvo's journal. The Buzz starts now.
Since the dawn of digital filmmaking,
authoritative.
One show serves a worldwide network of media professionals.
Current.
uniting industry experts,
Production.
filmmakers,
Post-production.
and content creators around the planet.
Distribution.
From the media capital of the world in Los Angeles, California, the Digital Production Buzz goes live now.
Welcome to the Digital Production Buzz, the world's longest-running podcast for the creative content industry, covering media production, post-production, and marketing around the world. Hi, my name is Larry Jordan. This month, we're looking at the state of the media industry from production to post. So far, we've looked at producing, production, and post-production. Tonight, we look at media technology itself. I wanted to look at technology from 2 perspectives. First, trends that we need to watch. Then, second, how we teach all this evolving technology to students and adults. To that end, I've invited some of our favorite guests to share their thoughts on tonight's show. And technology affects not only our industry, but the Buzz itself. After tonight's show, the Buzz will be going on hiatus. I'll have more to say on this in my closing comments at the end of the show. And now it's time for James DeRuvo's Journal. Hello, James.
Happy Thursday, Larry.
And a happy Thursday to you, too. What's in the news this week?
This week at Computex in Japan, NVIDIA announced a new app called NVIDIA Studio for content creators. It is designed to streamline rendering workflows, and NVIDIA Studio can make video effects rendering up to 20 times faster on desktops using the GeForce RTX or Quadro RTX graphics cards. There's also support for Red Cine X, which we knew about a couple of weeks ago, and it can greatly improve pre-viz rendering in apps like CineTracer. But it does require laptops or desktops with an Intel i7 processor and at least a GeForce RTX 2060.
Where does this fit with NVIDIA gear in general?
I like to think of the NVIDIA Studio as the digital nitrous oxide of your NVIDIA graphics engine. You push nitrous oxide through your carburetor and you get this burst of speed. And I kind of think that's what NVIDIA is doing, is they are dialing in the rendering performance of your NVIDIA GPUs. And in doing so, they're cutting your output time extremely dramatically.
All right, NVIDIA's our lead. What's the second story?
Well, bad news again for Nikon users, as B&H has sent out emails to customers who have purchased Nikon brand batteries to inform them that they may have gotten hold of counterfeit models that the retailer unwittingly received in a shipment from their suppliers. The counterfeit batteries include the EN-EL15B, EN-EL11 through 8 models, the EN-EL5, and the EN-EL3 through 1 models. And since there is no way to determine which customer received a fake battery from this bad batch, B&H is offering to replace any Nikon battery From a list of suspect models mentioned above. All you have to do is contact B&H and arrange to have your battery replaced.
Nikon's had a tough couple of months.
Yeah, it's been a tough spring for Nikon, one that is overshadowing some great new features coming from their firmware updates, including 12-bit RAW. But users should not discount this recall, because the dangers of using a counterfeit battery are extremely real. These batteries don't contain the circuitry that shuts off the charging once a battery reaches full capacity. As such, a fake battery can overcharge, overheat, and even catch fire and explode with no warning whatsoever. So users are advised to contact B&H immediately if they bought a Nikon battery from them so they can arrange for an RMA replacement.
Wow. And what's our third story this week?
Canon is offering to declick your RF mount lenses. So if you're a Canon EOS R or EOS RP mirrorless camera user and you've got those RF mount lenses, you've noticed that the control ring on the new RF lens design can cause a subtle click that could be picked up by a shotgun or boom mic. To that end, Canon is offering to modify these control rings and will do so for about $60 per lens. And Canon is also going to declick the EF to EOS R mount adapter as well. The price does not include tax and shipping, and it must be done at an authorized Canon facility.
Well, why Canon and why now?
Well, I think it's a warranty issue, Larry. There are plenty of DIY videos out there on how to declick lenses, and they're very popular with shooters who use old legacy film lenses for their shooting. But you're on your own with those DIY techniques. You don't have a warranty with those old lenses. And just because Canon will warranty this service, I think makes it worth having a professional do it.
And what other stories caught your attention this week?
Other stories we're following include there's talk that Canon may be discontinuing not only the 7D series DSLR, but also the Canon 5D SR in favor of mirrorless designs. There's a hidden 10-bit 5K mode in the Panasonic S1, and Sony slashes prices on their mirrorless cameras by as much as $1,000.
Wow. James, as you know, our industry is constantly changing, as these news stories attest. And tonight, that affects both of us. Starting next month, we're integrating Dawdle News into the LarryJordan.com website. Plus, you'll also be writing stories for both Dawdle News and my weekly newsletters, which I think is especially nice.
Well, what I like about this move is that we are able to preserve all our Dawdle News content from the last 8 years while bringing it to a larger LarryJordan.com audience.
But with the buzz going on hiatus, it means I'm not going to talk to you every week, and I've enjoyed working with you during the last 3 years on the buzz. I've looked forward to your news updates every week. I wish you great success.
Thank you, Larry, and right back at you. I'm going to miss these little happy Thursday moments.
Indeed, yes. Then James DeRuvo is the editor-in-chief of Dawdle News, and thanks for all your hard work here on the buzz.
Back at you, Larry.
I want to introduce you to a new website, Thalo.com. Thalo is an artist community and networking site for creative people to connect, be inspired, and showcase their creativity. Thalo.com features content from around the world with a global perspective on all things creative. Thalo is the place for creative folks to learn, collaborate, market, and sell their works. Thalo is a part of Thalo Arts, a worldwide community of artists, filmmakers, and storytellers. From photography to filmmaking, performing arts to fine arts, and everything in between, Thalo is filled with the resources you need to succeed. Visit Thalo.com and discover how their community can help you connect, learn, and succeed. That's Thalo.com. Philip Hodgetts is recognized as a leading technologist as well as the CEO of Lumberjack System. Even better, he's a regular here on The Buzz, where he specializes in explaining new technology. Hello, Philip. Welcome back.
Hello, Larry.
Tonight, we're looking at media technology, trends to watch, and what we need to know to stay current. So as you look back over the last year, what new workflow, technology, or software has emerged that seems significant for the future?
Well, that is going to be extremely subjective, because what's significant to me may not be significant to other people and vice versa. But I've identified 3 trends as being sort of surfaced in the last year, not necessarily just come about in the last year. Obviously, are going to see a lot more machine learning in our tool set, not as the big "I'm taking over your job" bogeyman, but more as smarter and smarter tools.
Let's get to the list, and we'll come back and talk about each of them. The first one is machine learning and smarter tools. What's the second one?
Post starts on the set. The third one is more of the workflow is moving to the cloud. And the final trend, actually is the fourth of my 3, is mobile production, and how we can get a lot of production quality and flexibility in very small packages.
All right. So let's take a look first at machine learning and smarter tools. Why is this one significant?
It's going to probably have the biggest change on the way we do our work day by day, and then anything since probably nonlinear editing, because it enables us to get metadata faster, enables to manage our assets with less human intervention, and human intervention is expensive. That's the most expensive kind of metadata we can get, is the ones where people literally listen to and then make notes about our media. That machine learning is already inside the latest release of Resolve. We've seen Adobe do a lot of Sensei-powered tools within the Premiere Pro ecosystem. There's a lot going on, and it's going to continue to go on, and we'll just find that more and more of our tools have a little help going on from the machine learning that's in the tool set.
Well, you've stressed before that you don't see this machine learning costing jobs. Why not?
It's not going to take away jobs in the way that people who sort of like, oh, it's going to replace an editor. I don't know that machine learning up to this point has ever replaced a complete job, but it can certainly make parts of the job faster and maybe make the number of assistants necessary, or the need for an assistant less necessary. It's always evolving. Technology always changes the jobs that are available. Whether that leads to fewer or more is very much depending on how you do the math and how you view the technologies.
Philip, how are you using machine learning in the tools that you create?
The most obvious place is, of course, the speech-to-text in Lumberjack Builder is a purely machine learning-based technology, one that is easily rolled out across new languages. And the provider that we have actually now has got 25 different languages for support. We support all of those in Lumberjack Builder. Can I share a little bit of exciting news with you about Lumberjack Builder?
Absolutely.
Tomorrow morning, we will be announcing Builder 2.0.
Wow.
There is only one important new feature in that, but Builder 2.0 will support Premiere Pro XML import and back to Premiere Pro. So you can get all of the Builder advantage regardless of your favorite NLE.
Very, very cool. Congratulations. So the second one is post workflows on set. What's that mean?
Post is starting on the set. We've seen for quite a while that digital imaging technicians are doing image mock-ups on the set. They're doing the color grading so that the producer or the director knows what they're getting on the set. They're actually grading through, say, raw into viewable footage on the set. There's a lot of move to do more metadata entry on the set, and obviously we're part of that. I think it's a trend, obviously. There are more and more times where post is starting on the set. And I think it's a good idea that post is involved in the shoot, because a lot less will have to be fixed in post if post were there to say, can't do that. Okay.
Third one is workflow in the cloud.
Michael Kammes, I think, has made a very good career decision to go to BeBop, who are one of the pioneers of moving the apps that we use every day into the cloud. But it's not only moving your apps into the cloud or moving media between people in the cloud, but they are definitely trends that we're seeing. I would think that we're seeing this cloud slowly coming into the shoot and the production. People like Sync on Set are doing the traditional call sheets and all of that through the cloud. They're providing important metadata about costuming and all of that back to the production. So that big, thick paper Bible is being replaced by a tablet.
But it seems that implicit in the statement, workflow in the cloud, is that collaboration is going to continue to increase. Because if you're an artist of one working in your own studio, you don't need the cloud. it's only when you need to collaborate the cloud becomes useful. Is that true?
I would agree with that completely. As much as I admire Frame.io, I have no personal need for it, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a valuable tool. So just because I don't need something in my workflow doesn't mean that other people won't find that very valuable. Most people like me, I mean, those small individual producers, are probably not doing very much DIT work on the set, really, are they?
Okay. Your fourth one is mobile productions.
The thing about mobile production is that it's a small production kit with a high payoff. Now, I started to get interested in this back in 2012 when I was setting up for the long-aborted Solar Odyssey project. We had very limited space on the boat and very limited power, so we had to work with tools that would work in that situation. And we were looking at DSLRs and GoPros at that point. I wonder now, if I was looking at that, if I wouldn't simply say, well, why not just use the iPhones and the iPads that everybody already has and put the production together that way? And there's a whole range of tools. I've done a lot of work with Switcher Studio, both from my vocal coaches studio, as we put on showcases there, and also at NAB, we use Switcher Studio to do live streaming, two-camera live streaming to the internet, and the tool set will fit in a briefcase. There's a competitor to Switcher Studio, Cinemaker, which has a cabled option, which in high noise areas or lack of areas where Wi-Fi wasn't working, that might be great for that. LumaFusion is a very powerful editing tool on iOS, and Apple even made an ad for the iPad Pro where everything, including the music and the editing, was done on the iPad Pro itself. So I think that's a major trend, is that there's a lot that can be done with these very small, very portable tool sets.
Well, this leads into a business side question. As technology becomes ever more powerful and cheaper, how does the creative artist remain in business when barriers to entry keep getting lower?
I guess the answer to how does anybody stay in business is by adding value, finding new ways to add value. I think one of the disservices that the production industry did for itself in the 80s, 90s, and into the early part of this century is that they sold the access to the tools. That was the thing that they were selling. I can produce high quality because I've got Betacam versus you've got, a 3/4 inch system. And that was a mistake because you were never selling the tools. You were selling the stories that you could make with them. And storytellers find new ways to evolve as the technology evolves to tell their stories. I think this is probably even slightly preempting your next question, but the production side is relatively easy. Anybody can get the tools to produce a story, be it with an iPhone. There have been movies that have been created with an iPhone, more than one. It's the distribution side that makes it more difficult for people to get their movie seen and heard. We know that the competition at Sundance is incredibly high. The chance of getting your short shown there is astronomical, but people still strive for that.
As you look to the future, as you said, stories will always be with us. But is the determining factor to success with our stories going to be technology, new forms of distribution, or something else?
I'm probably going to go with the something else. All of those things, the technology and the new forms of distribution, are important, but the compulsion to tell stories is something that is deep in the human psyche, and we will always seek to tell those stories. The very aggregation that works against the individual storyteller being heard actually works for other individual storytellers. I mean, the number of people who've built a career because they could access a much larger audience via YouTube, or aggregate an audience for their short film or even feature via Facebook and other social media. Take away the individuality on one hand, but give you tools where you can stand out with on the other hand. And I'm also going to have to say at some point we have to wonder whether art is a business or art is a passion. We used to have a lot of people who could make a lot of money out of production. I think we'll see a lot more people making less individually, but making decent incomes. And I think that's more important. I'd rather see 20, 30, 50, 1,000 creative people making their stories and getting them out to people and making a modest living from it than having 2 or 3 bazillionaires in Hollywood controlling every sitcom.
Philip, for people who want to keep track of your thinking and other projects that you're working on, including Lumberjack System, where can they go on the web?
At philiphodgetts.com is probably the best place. Everything tends to go into there across all of my interest areas.
That's all one word, philiphodgetts.com, and the Philip Hodgetts himself is the voice you've been listening to. Philip, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
As Director of Business Development for BeBop Technology, Michael Kammes leverages his experience with creative technology and tools providers to accelerate growth and provide strategic perspective across marketing, sales, and partnerships. What that means is Michael understands tech, and he's also a frequent and welcome contributor to The Buzz. Hello, Michael. Welcome back.
Hello, Larry. Fantastic to hear your voice again.
I always enjoy chatting with you because tonight we're looking at media technology, trends to watch, and what we need to know to stay current. And as you look back over the last year, what new workflow, technology, or software has emerged that seems significant for the future?
I think there's two big things, Larry, and I'd rather focus on, if possible, not just this machine has more cores, or this software can play back more streams. I think right now we're in a very good place with the 3 or 4 big software players in terms of NLEs, and we have a lock on what the audio realm is. I think if we take a look at some of the overarching technologies, I think that the red carpet's kind of been rolled out for them. One of them is something that one of your last guests just had, Philip. When we talk about Lumberjack system and the tools of incorporating machine learning and, dare I say, AI into storytelling, not to replace editors, but to take a lot of the pedestrian ditch digging work out of it and let editors create as opposed to doing the more menial tasks. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can train machine learning to do this for us.
Well, you're right. Philip's number one comment was machine learning and smarter tools. And I want to come back and discuss machine learning with you as well. But what's your second topic? So we can both list it up front.
The second topic, I think, is leveraging machines that are not within arm's reach. It's not just the MacBook Pro on your desktop or the PC sitting, at the quiet side of your edit bay. It's leveraging cloud. It's leveraging disparate forms of technology that are not at your fingertips, but now because of the internet, we now have access to. And that's not just the technology, but the folks who understand how to use that technology, I think is going to help storytelling immensely moving forward.
Well, let's switch back to machine learning for just a minute. How do you see that as enabling storytelling?
Storytelling is creativity, right? It's the craft. And the more time you're spending doing things that are not craft related, the less time you can spend creating. So if we're talking about organizing keywords, or we're talking about creating bins, if we're talking about logging footage, if we're talking about trimming out ahs and ums, the stuff that takes away from the pure storytelling aspect, I think anything we can do to reduce the pedestrian work, to give more time to the creatives, is a godsend for all creatives. So I think that's where we're going to see machine learning take precedence first.
Well, let me push back with you on that.
Sure.
I can understand how machine learning would make the tools easier to use. Philip used the term smarter tools. But as technology becomes both more powerful and cheaper and does more, how does the creative artist remain in business when the barriers to entry keep getting lower?
That's a great question, Larry, and something that I discuss with my colleagues quite a bit. And I think we saw this to some extent during the great NLE changeover back in the late 90s when we went from the $100,000 Avid system to, well, now we have Final Cut Pro and Adobe and these other software packages. I think there was a time in the late 80s and 90s where you could be just a creative because the financial barrier of entry was so great to get in that not everyone had the technology. How that applies now is we're going to see more and more creatives having to do even more. And I know this has been something that has been pushed for years. Editors have had to start doing motion graphics, and they started to be pushed to do more Photoshop work. But I think this trend is not going to stop. I think we're going to see more and more editors saying, I have to diversify my tool set, I have to learn these, and I need to market myself. I can't just be an editor on staff. I need to be a one-person band and be able to market myself as knowing all of these tools, not just the creative storytelling tools, but also the things for graphics and motion graphics too.
So rather than opting for specialization, you're recommending that all of us become generalists.
Unfortunately, I think that's going to be the way to go. And I think the other angle to that, and this probably sounds like overkill, but we are generating more content. There's more platforms for distribution. There's more platforms for consumption. And so we're not going to have this upper echelon of everything is going to be CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, HBO, high-end Netflix. There's going to be so much content that is going to be, shall we say, at a lower stature than that, both from a quality and financial perspective. And so I think there's enough work to go around for everyone.
Well, your second point is leveraging machines that are not in arm's reach. What does that mean?
If you were to buy a machine now, you're going to be settled with that machine for 3 years, 5 years, or even longer. And I think we're getting into a point where we no longer need to sit on that one machine or two machines. I think if we start leveraging the technology in the cloud or technology that's in someone else's data center to do rendering, to do processing, or to even plug into tools that we don't have access to is going to help us immensely. There are a ton of tools out there, asset management systems, render systems, even transcoders that are hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if those move from a CapEx model, meaning you buy it, to an OpEx model, meaning you only pay for it when you use it, that's going to bring a lot of these tools, which are highly expensive, down to a more consumer, prosumer, or one-off perspective for creatives. So the more we can leverage tools that we don't have to buy and we can rent, I think is going to make the quality of product that much easier, and will certainly diversify the tools that you can use.
Well, how do you reconcile that with the ability to actually access our projects? If we've got to rent the software to be able, or rent the hardware, if we're between projects, I suddenly have to re-rent it just to be able to view something. That strikes me as becoming more awkward, not less.
Larry, if we look at the simple things like transcoding, you know that doing a standards conversion, going from 2398 to 297 or back, that simple conversion can be really, really hard. But if we look at these expensive enterprise transcoders that are already in the cloud that we can rent on a per project basis, what's wrong with that? How would that be detrimental to the creative and storytelling process if we get access to that technology for pennies on the dollar, but only when we need it?
It's become obvious, as both you and Philip have talked about, that machine learning and AI in general is going to be part of our life in greater and greater proportions going forward. How do creative artists embrace this and use it to enable our work rather than fear it because it's going to be restricting what they used to be able to get paid for?
And that goes to the kind of cornerstone of our industry. If you stop and take a breath and look around for too long, you might miss it. Our industry is constantly evolving. I know it's kind of trite, but we joke in the industry that there's 2 reboots every year, right? NAB and IBC. And I don't know of another industry where there are 2 milestones in a 365-day span where the industry can change. So I think that anyone coming into the industry has to realize you can't rest on your laurels, and you can only improve your skills. And that is a constant evolution that you have to do. And if you can't, then maybe you should move into management.
One last question. As you look to the future, stories will always be with us. Will the determining factor to success as storytellers be new technology or new forms of distribution or something else?
Wow, that's a good question. Given the massive VOD model and the fact that we can consume video from just about anywhere on everywhere, I think if we're using a monetary scale as being the judgment point for what's successful, it's going to be marketing. It's going to be standing out from every other angle you're being bombarded with in terms of media to consume. So I think if we look at it from that perspective, it's going to be the marketing angle.
I think your observation is absolutely correct. But what does a creative artist need to do to be a successful marketer? Because that leads into a lot of stuff that we're not good at. We're good at telling stories. We're good at using tools to tell stories. But now we're into something different, which is bragging about our work, which many of us are not necessarily comfortable doing.
I think for many, many decades, what we consumed on television and then what we consumed on basic cable television was media that was meant for the masses. It didn't appeal to niche groups or subgroups. And I think what we're finding with the internet over the past couple of decades is that these smaller groups, these niche interests, do have a sizable audience. And that sizable audience does have purchasing power. And so I think we're going to start seeing more editors, more creatives saying, I'm going to market myself to be in this niche, to work with this group of people in this industry, because I understand how they think, I understand what kind of content they like, and how they consume it. And so I think we're going to see a lot more creatives, maybe not bouncing back and forth between action and documentary and YouTube and et cetera. I think we're going to see a much more consolidation of that and people choosing certain paths to go down.
Then how do you reconcile this emphasis on a niche market with what you said at the beginning of the interview, which is that we all need to be generalists?
I said generalists in terms of technology, not in terms of storytelling. I think there are so many technologies out there that we have to learn, and many portions within the creative process. If you're working on a vlog, let's say, compared to a feature film, there's still the traditional post-production processes. There's still the editing, there's still the grading, there's still the sound work. All those require multiple tools. Just because you can use the multiple tools for one genre doesn't mean you're equipped to do it better than someone else in another genre. Being a generalist in terms of technology is paramount, but I think honing your skills to one or two particular verticals, I think is going to be important moving forward, and then tying that into marketing to push yourself and market yourself to those niches.
And Michael, for people that want to follow the thinking that you're going through or keep track of the projects you're working on, where can they go on the web?
2 places. You can go to michaelkammes.com. You can also go to my web series, 5thingsseries.com.
That web series is the number 5, 5thingsseries.com. And Michael Kammes, Kammes, michaelkammes.com. Michael Kammes is the Director of Business Development for BeBop. And Michael, as always, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity, Larry. I've always appreciated it.
Dr. Erik Johnson is the Vice Dean for Academic Programs at the Viterbi School of Engineering at USC. Among many other duties, Dr. Johnson is also the Interim Director of the Information Technology Program, which teaches students across the university computer and technology skills to complement their major. Hello, Erik. Welcome.
Hi, Larry. Glad to be here today.
How would you describe the Information Technology Program?
ITP serves a very important role here within the university. It allows us to teach students from across the university, not just engineering students, but students from political science and economics and business, computational skills and computational thinking, giving them tools that complement what they're doing in their major and open up new opportunities for them in their careers and so forth. We live in a digital era, and it is essential that people from every discipline have good exposure to and be conversant with modern technology and so forth. ITP serves a very important role in that regard. We have about 1,000 students currently from every possible major around campus.
Tonight, we're looking at technology. Earlier in the show, we heard from Philip Hodgetts and Michael Kammes about specific applications of technology to media. Mm-hmm. What I'm interested in talking with you about is the process of getting students prepared for using technology in the working world. And there's an ongoing debate about whether schools should teach theory and fundamentals or whether they should teach actual operation of software and hardware. Where do you fit in that debate?
I would sit solidly in the middle. Middle of the road is sometimes dangerous because that's where you get run over. Students need to see both. Teaching students how to use the software that's in use today is important for them going on immediately to a job, but it may not prepare them for what they're going to be doing in 10 or 20 years. The software that we use today for a particular application may not exist anymore. It is essential then to think about what do we do to prepare students to go on to their first job, but what do we do to prepare them for the lifelong learning and the job that they are going to have in 10 years and 20 years and in 30 years. And that's the place where learning something about the theory becomes important, because theory is not tied to specific tools we use today, but gives them the fundamentals that they can use to build their learning over their lifetime so that they can use the tools of 20 years from now.
How do you interest students, whether they're young or old, in learning something they don't know? How do you hook their attention?
Some of it is just through the excitement of what you can do with technology. Also, it's recognizing and helping them to see that this is helping them for their future. When I'm thinking in the classroom, I'm thinking mostly about what I can teach them that they can then use, especially with the technology. How can I teach them tools that they can use in classes that they are going to be taking in the future? So one of the classes that I've often taught, for example, was an introductory numerical methods in programming for civil and environmental engineers. It's taken normally in the freshman year, and it gives students tools that they're going to use subsequently in a job after they finish, but also to be more equipped to pursue the problems that they're doing in their other classes in the rest of their program. My primary focus in teaching is to think about equipping them with the tools that they need to move forward.
One of the challenges we have with technology is it's really, really complex. What approach works best when you're teaching a complex technical subject?
Walking students through it.
How so?
I could stand up in front of a room and talk about some of the complex subjects and try to explain them in detail. And that's a piece of it, but students have to get their hands dirty. And so walking them through, for example, a programming example or digital graphics, sometimes you have to see it and you have to go through the process, see it going through the process first, and then you have to do it yourself. Doing it yourself is essential for almost all technology learning, because it's easy to watch what an instructor does and say, oh, that seems easy. Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. And then when it actually comes to doing it yourself, you forget about all the little details that go into it. It's a combination of teaching them some theory, showing them some examples, walking them slowly through things, and then giving them a chance to try it, but in an environment where they have access to the instructor or to some teaching assistants to answer their questions quickly. Otherwise, it's easy for them to get frustrated. And so having a laboratory environment, for example, where the students can work through problems either immediately after class or relatively close to the time that they talk about it in the regular lecture, gives them an opportunity to really do the hands-on part of it.
I have the great pleasure of hiring students on a regular basis, and especially after they've just graduated. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I find most interesting is that many graduates feel that they've arrived, and they have not yet discovered that they really don't know much of anything, and life is the process of ongoing education and lifelong learning.
Lifelong learning, exactly.
This was brought home to me a long time ago with a friend of mine who turned to me in great frustration, throwing his pencil down on a desk and said, I'm tired of learning, I want to just start doing. Which strikes me of most graduates. How do you convince kids that it is really lifelong learning? This is just the first step.
I think in many ways that's what a university is. Yes, students will learn knowledge in their 4 years here, but a big part of a university experience is learning to learn. It's learning to approach problems in a particular way. It's learning how to think, more than just learning facts and so forth. It's learning in a way that you can then apply it later. As you said, it's easy, I think, for people to think, okay, now I've finished at whatever level of school, whether it's high school or college or graduate school, to think, okay, I have arrived, I'm done. I don't have to go to school anymore. That's true. You don't have formal learning you have to do after that, but informally, especially in technology that is changing exponentially fast, if you stop, you'll be left behind so quickly today.
You've been involved with technology for decades. What is it that still catches your fancy? What keeps you interested?
There's always something new, and that's exciting. I think one of the challenges in some fields, in some jobs, is being stuck doing the same thing day to day. Tangential comment, one of the things I love about being at a university is we are constantly developing new knowledge. We are constantly challenged by a new cohort of students. We have to continue thinking. We have to continue innovating. We have to continue advancing. And with technology, I think that's one of the things that's exciting. There's something new that comes around the corner every day. Coupled with that, the capabilities we have today are truly quite mind-boggling. The cell phones that most of us use on a day-to-day basis have more computational power than $10 million supercomputers had just 30 years ago. And that opens up so many opportunities for doing interesting and new things.
For students that are interested in learning how to think, where can they go on the web to learn more about the programs that ITP offers?
The ITP website is itp.usc.edu, and information about the courses we offer, about the faculty, about the minors and programs that we offer are all listed there, as well as some information about where our students go when they finish.
Very cool. That website is itp.usc.edu, and Dr. Erik Johnson is the Vice Dean for Academic Programs at the Viterbi School of Engineering at USC. And Dr. Johnson, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to, Larry. Thank you very much.
Here's another website I want to introduce you to, doddlenews.com. Doddle News gives you a portal into the broadcast, video, and film industries. It's a leading online resource presenting news, reviews, and products for the film and video industry. Doddle News also offers a resource guide and crew management platform specifically designed for production. These digital call sheets, along with their app, directory, and premium listings, provide in-depth organizational tools for busy production professionals. Doddle News is a part of the Thalo Arts community, a worldwide community of artists, filmmakers, and storytellers. From photography to filmmaking, performing arts to fine arts, and everything in between, Thalo is filled with resources you need to succeed. Whether you want the latest industry news, need to network with other creative professionals, or require state-of-the-art online tools to manage your next project, there's only one place to go, doddlenews.com. Michael Horton co-founded the Los Angeles Creative Pro User Group more than 20 years ago. He also co-founded the legendary Supermeets. Best of all, he's a longtime friend of the Buzz, and I'm glad to say welcome back, Mike.
Welcome, Larry. It's great to be with you once again. It always is.
It is always fun to chat with you. You know, I was thinking, you were on my first podcast all those years ago. You co-hosted the show with me for 9 years.
Did I really? For 9 years?
9 years. So it seems appropriate to me that you'd be here for this one just before the Buzz goes on hiatus.
Well, thank you for having me. It really is an honor. And hopefully that hiatus isn't going to be very, very long. And then you can have me back for another 9 years.
I'm not sure the world is ready for that.
Okay.
Tonight, we're looking at technology. Philip and Mike discussed technical trends, technology, past and future. Erik Johnson talked about teaching tech to students, but for more than 2 decades, you've been helping adults master their craft. What are the most popular sessions at a user group like the Los Angeles Creative Pro User Group?
Good question, Larry. And I was actually looking at my past meetings on my website. It actually goes back to the very first meeting that we had back in June of 2000. So that's 19 years. 19 years ago. This month will be the 19th anniversary. And I was looking at some of the agendas. Early on, when it was a Final Cut Pro user group, most of the presentations were of a technical nature, of a technique nature. How do you do this? How you do that? And a lot of new products. And it sort of evolved after we called it the Creative Pro user group into new products and a lot of creative ways to use those products with creative people coming up and giving an idea on how they do what they do. It morphed into more of a creative user group rather than a technical user group. In fact, we don't do a lot of technical stuff. We do new products and bring in people who use those products and see how they actually use them themselves.
One of the nice things that you do as you program the user groups is you look for a variety of subjects to cover each month.
Yeah.
But people vote with their feet.
Yeah.
What is it that you know is going to bring in a large crowd?
A celebrity editor.
Really?
always works. It always works, and especially depending on the current movie that they just did, or if they are a legend in the business, of course, that will bring them in. Just this last month, we had Nick Monsour, who did the movie Us, big hit movie. Everybody wanted to see what he did with it. It was a complex movie and how he shaped it, and we had a discussion on just that. And so anytime I bring in a creative working editor, that brings a lot of people into the theater. Although just this last meeting, we had Black Magic DaVinci Resolve Night. It was all about Resolve and all the new stuff that they have in it in version 16. That was a full house. So yeah.
You sure can predict, can't you?
Well, we can't, but there's a lot of people interested in new products as long as that new product is somewhat earth-shattering. And the stuff that Blackmagic has been doing every single time they come up with a new version, that seems to make people sit up and notice. And they want to come and they actually want to talk to the people who are making it. That's one of the reasons that they show up, not just to see the new features, because they can see that on the online, but they actually want to talk to the people. They want to ask questions. So they want to do that face-to-face. And the same thing with celebrity editors. They want to talk to them. They want to ask questions. They want to not just see how they do what they do, but it gets very personal in this intimate setting at the gallery theater. So we try to do that.
Taking a step back, what's more important to you as you program these, helping users understand technology or understand their craft or become more creative, or is it something else?
Yeah, it's always been understanding the craft. And I try to bring the people in who understand that too. And, people like you, anytime that you come, you always bring a lot of people to the theater because there's a lot of fans of Larry Jordan, and you're able to articulate the craft or the technique in a way that a lot of people can't. And so you want people like that. You want people like you to come in and do what others cannot do. And you've done that several times over the years. So I'm just scrolling down through all the past meets, and if they all have something in common, it's more about craft and not a lot about tech. There's certainly a lot of new products demos. This next month, you have Philip Hodgetts on your show tonight, and he'll be doing the new Builder. And I know a lot of people are going to want to see that because we're going to hype it to the point of this is an earth-shattering new product. And it is, in a way.
Yeah.
It's going to solve a lot of problems. So we're going to be doing something like that. On the creative part of the show, I haven't done that yet, but I think I need to, because the other presentation will be more of 2 editors and 2 filmmakers, one in Germany and one in Los Angeles, making a movie. That'll be using a lot of the Frame.io. So that's what is happening in the world today, where you can collaborate with people all over the world by using these new tools such as Frame.io. That's kind of technical, but I'll bring in something creative. I don't know yet.
User groups across the country are struggling. What do you see as the future of user groups?
It's really tough. It's really hard to get people out of the house. LassyPug is successful, number one, because we have access to a lot of talent here in Los Angeles. So even though it's very difficult to get them out of the house and get them over to LassyPug for a presentation, and it always is, I have the access to that. The problem is I also have the competition, as though there's an event almost every night in Los Angeles, 2 to 3 events sometimes, of which everyone should be going to who is in this industry. What I try to heighten more than anything is the opportunity to not only learn something, but to network. I hit people over the head with that every single month, that if you really are serious about being in this business, you need to get out of the house and meet people, because you're more likely to get a job based on who you know, not your talent.
But why is that message so hard for potential members to hear?
I don't know. Has it always been hard? Probably. I don't think this is anything new to any new generation or anything like that. I think it's always been hard. Especially creative people are a lot more comfortable by themselves than they are with a crowd of other people. And it's really hard to say, hi, my name is, and what do you do for a living? And hey, let's have a cup of coffee and get to know each other, that kind of thing. It can't be done in one meet. It has to be done over and over and over again. But I can't tell you how many people have gotten jobs just because they've met people at a Lassie Bug meeting or a super meet. Those are the ones who really give it their all to try to meet people. And so networking is just paramount. It is the most important thing you can do. Forget all this technical stuff. You'll learn that. Monkeys can learn NLEs. It's not that difficult. You can learn all that stuff online. Learning how to meet people and talk to people and be nice to people, that's a little bit harder. You have to practice. You have to get out of the house.
Yep, you got to move your feet.
You got to move your feet. It is very hard, and especially for creative people. We're socially retarded. It's part of our nature. It's in our DNA. So you gotta create a new character.
For people who decide that it is time to move their feet, get out and meet new people, and get that next job, where can they go on the web to learn more about the LA Creative Pro User Group?
Really easy. Even though we're called the Los Angeles Creative Pro User Group, our acronym is still LAFCPUG.org. And one of these days I'll change it. One of these days I'll do an update on the website, which is still, it goes back to 2000 and it looks like it, but it gets the job done. It gives you all the information that you need. So why change something?
And the website is all one word, LAF?
LAFCPUG.org.
And Mike Horton is the co-founder of Lassie Pug. And how are you pronouncing it now?
I call it Lassie Pug, LACPUG. So it's Lassie like the dog. Doesn't make any sense at all. Or you can call it Lack Pug, but Lassie Pug seems to be what everybody's calling it.
All right, and that's what we're going to call it. Here, the website is LAFCPUG.org, and Mike Horton's the co-founder. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
All right, thank you, Larry. Always an honor.
Take care. Our industry is awash in change. During this last month, we've discussed the current state of media technology from producing to post, and everyone agrees that change is both disruptive and accelerating, but not necessarily bad. As you may have read in the newsletter, changes are coming to the buzz as well. I deeply believe that independent voices are essential to add balance to vendor-centric marketing, but it is also important for these voices to be effective. To that end, we've decided it's time to take a break from producing new episodes of the Digital Production Buzz to refocus our energy into creating more articles, webinars, and training, which can enable all of us to succeed. During this hiatus, my team and I want to look at ways we can make the buzz more relevant to media professionals. Over the last many years, we've focused on interviews, but perhaps there are other things we should be doing as well. This production pause gives us a chance to reflect, reconsider, and renew the show. Also, starting next month, we're integrating Dottle News into the LarryJordan.com website. This means that James DeRuvo will be writing articles on technology for both Dottle and LarryJordan.com, which I think is really nice. This move also makes the content on Dottle News more accessible. This break also allows me to restart my weekly webinars with a look at new tools and technology that I just haven't had time to cover before. I've enjoyed creating every episode of The Buzz. I'll miss hosting each show and our weekly conversations, but The Buzz isn't gone. It's just resting for a while as we figure out how we can best use it to continue covering our industry. And you can still access all of our shows at digitalproductionbuzz.com. In the meantime, you'll find me at larryjordan.com. I look forward to seeing you there. And that's a wrap. I want to thank our guests this week, Philip Hodgetts with Lumberjack System, Michael Kammes with BeBop Technology, Dr. Erik Johnson with USC, Michael Horton with Lassie Pug, and James DeRuvo with DottleNews.com. There's a lot of history in our industry, and it's all posted to our website at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Here you'll find hundreds of shows and thousands of interviews, all online and all available to you today. Transcripts are provided by TakeOne.tv. Our theme music was composed by Nathan Doogie Turner, with additional music provided by SmartSound.com. Our producer is Paulina Borowski. My name is Larry Jordan, and thanks for listening to the Digital Production Buzz. The Digital Production Buzz is copyright 2019 by Thalo LLC.